right, y'all. Welcome back to the Who's Right podcast. And here we go. What a week. What a week. It's unbelievable. What a week to do to all. And, it's one of those things where, it's so excited. Um, but, um, you know, um, it's before we get started, subscribe to the channel, like this video. Let us know how you're feeling, because, before this week, because I wasn't able to get to you guys last week. We weren't able to get to you last week. So, things came up, but it's all good. But, Victor, how you doing?
Feeling good, man. We win a series against the Yankees and everything's changed, right? The Mets are feeling like they're competitive again, that they like to play baseball. They play fun baseball. Coming back, man, this is a feeling that we haven't had in a while as Mets fans. Just, it'll be a while until we say that the season is officially back, but being able to enjoy baseball is a good feeling for a change. It's a lot of the and what I'm glad that we missed last week to some extent because we would have just been negative the whole time after that sweep from the Diamondbacks. But coming off of a sweep from the Tigers and then taking 2 out of 3 from the Yankees, can't help but feel good as a Mets fan.
No, for sure, and you can't feel good. I can't but feel good, like you said, about these wins, and let's break them down real quick. The first series against Detroit this week, we had three comeback victories in that, and it's one of those, and then going into the Yankees, the Subway Series, we were feeling pretty good about it. I got, but in that Detroit series, seeing Framber being Framber, in many ways, but seeing the young kids produce, right? We saw the debut of AJ Ewing, and so a lot of people are clamoring for him to be in the leadoff spot, but I think he's good where he's at. Benj has shown that we can't let the first month dictate how we feel about Benj, and he's produced as he did in the Subway Series, and so we gotta let that ride. But The debut of AJ Ewing in the Detroit series was probably the highlight of other than sweeping the series, obviously. But the highlight of the series was seeing AJ Ewing's debut and seeing how electric it was and how much energy he brought. And who knows, this week might have been turned around just because of the energy that AJ Ewing brought. What do you think?
Absolutely, man. The kid's a ball player, and on and off the field, you just see um, the gamer that he is. He's going on his debut on Tuesday, having that performance of a triple and 2 or 3 walks, I think it was, and then just his walks have been amazing. His plate approach has been amazing. 4 walks today, and even having that bunt single on today, or sorry, that sacrifice bunt on today. He does what it takes for the team to win. Um, in that Detroit series, felt like he was getting on base. He wasn't overmatched by this tough pitching that we saw in the and even in the New York series. But the one area that we thought he would be overmatched was against Framber, and he still kind of held his own, and he still put up some competitive at bats. And so it's great to see AJ Ewing doing what he does and just getting on base and knocking the ball and having a great week. And then on top of that, you have him getting praise from Juan Soto, because that's what it reminds you of, his eye at the plate, being able to have that discipline at the plate. Um, we have a few guys in this or in this lineup now that are going to take pitches, and that's a good thing when we can rack up these pitch counts on these pitchers. And I think really that's what's been the biggest benefit of the Mets in the past week is racking up those pitches. But with Bench in the leadoff spot, Soto doing his thing down in the three hole, and then AJ Ewing doing that in the 7 or 8 hole. You know, there there's no. It feels like the lineup has just gotten extended from his presence, and it's only up for AJ Ewing here.
Yeah, no, and you're starting to see that they are leaving the lefties in to face lefties, and you're seeing now kind of the thing that you have been harping about, the consistent lineup, right? I've been saying that we haven't had the guys to give us a consistent lineup. Guess what? Now we do. We have the guys that will stand in there with the lefties, and even Beatty, to a certain extent, is being left in the lineup and producing against the lefties. So I was surprised not to see Weathers today, and have them hit pitch Rodriguez, but it's one of those things that the consistent lineup every single day, the catching behind the plate. No knock on Alvarez here. I love Alvarez, but the consistent defense behind the plate, I think the consistency is actually what's helping not only the guys like Vientos, Beatty, but it's also helping the pitching staff with Torrens being the catcher back there, and and even with the clutch hits that Torrens had today. So it's you know. Um, I, yeah, consistency is the name of the game, and I don't want to say anymore. I'm gonna let you take over for now and talk about
Well, I just
which.
gotta say, you are such a hater, man. Hating on Alvarez. What did he do to you? He was pitching. I mean, sorry, he was doing his job behind the dish, and even at the plate, he was looking really good until he got hurt. Um, it's tragic to see that him go down because like everyone's saying, he just seems to be injury prone, and he just can't stay healthy. If it's not one thing, it's the other, um, and then you know here you come, just kicking him while he's down. But you know, I can't hate on Terenz either because he's been amazing behind the dish, and we know that he's the better defensive catcher, and he's been hitting, and so him being able to hit is, um, you know, a great thing for this Mets lineup if he's able to come in and produce a couple of hits here and there. uh, his long at bats. That's another guy that's been taking long at bats and putting up battles for these pitchers, and so that's been a good thing for to see out of Torrens. And then Singer, he'll be here, but to go off of what you said about the consistent lineup, yeah, that's something I've been harping on. But and the only guy that they seem not comfortable with facing right-handed pitching slash left-handed pitching is Austin Slater and MJ Melendez, and those are two guys that we could both look at them and say we're okay with them not getting playing time because we didn't see them being on this roster very long. And then whenever Jorge Polanco comes back, or if Luis Robert ever comes back, then they're taking both of their places. And so it doesn't really matter too much at this point, but Beatty getting the at bats, feeling comfortable at third. I don't know if I said that to you offline or on the podcast last, but when he's playing his natural position, he just seems so much more comfortable at third base, at the plate, and it's proven that he's getting that consistent hitting. He's getting on base. He still has his strikeouts every now and ugly strikeouts every now and then, but him being consistent is a huge saving grace for this team because he's also batting down in the lineup.
Yeah, no, for sure. And so let's review this Yankee series real quick. Subway Series. Obviously, we'll talk about Holmes and our concerns, but you know, obviously, losing on Friday and losing Holmes on Friday was almost like a gut punch. You know, so to give credit to the Mets for winning the last two games, and today in walk off fashion. You know, again with Benj, you know, it's a testament that the season isn't over, that we got a lot of season left, and you know, we just took two out of three of one of the better teams in the league, and so I think we're riding high. What 5-1 on the week? That's a pretty good homestand, and you know, it's just for me all but up from here.
Yeah, there's nothing like you said. We'll talk about Clay Holmes in a little bit, but the thing that we saw from this Mets that we haven't seen all year is fight. The Mets were down, and we even talk about this in the Tiger series, but they were down all three, uh, all six games, right? They were down
Yeah.
all six games this week, and came back and took all but one game. That is amazing, and that's not something that we saw from the Mets all year. And we're seeing some fight. They're not letting this season be a rainy cloud over their head anymore, and they're getting the monkey off their back. You know, and this is not something we saw last year either. And so this could be a real turning point for them, is getting those comeback wins like we haven't seen before in the past, uh, along with the hitting. Our pitching has been great and has kept us in games, but what hasn't been there is the hitting. And seeing guys like Marcus Simeon show up in this series, your boy Mark Vientos coming through in that cleanup spot and doing really well for himself, solidifying himself as the cleanup hitter in this series, kind of just providing protection for Juan Soto batting third. Um, it makes I'm sure it makes Juan Soto feel a lot more comfortable, but we saw some great play. You know. The only thing, and I don't think it's going to be any of our concerns. So the only thing that was tough to see was the few errors that Carson Bench made in the outfield. But he's hitting well, and so that's what matters. There's some give and take with that, but um, aside from the sloppy defense that we saw this series, we saw some great play and some great heart out there.
Yeah, sloppy defense on both sides of the ball. Both the Yankees and Mets had a little bit of a sloppy series, but yeah, no, I think I attribute it to what I talked about earlier. Is the energy that the young guys are bringing, the not knowing about, you know, for example, for specifically, sorry, specifically for AJ Ewing not being part of the losing streak, that he didn't feel that losing streak, right? And Carson Bench not letting the losing streak get to him and making adjustments and now starting to hit and kind of solidifying himself. You know, I don't know if he's going to solidify himself for the whole year at leadoff. You know, maybe down the line, AJ Ewan takes that spot and puts a Bench lower in the lineup. You know, I don't know. We'll see what happens throughout the year and when Lindor comes back. But I think the energy level and all um, the level of the young guys, Soto being in the lineup, obviously, and like you said, Vientos getting comfortable, Beatty getting comfortable. You know, I still would love to see Vientos hit lower in the lineup. You know, that I think will stretch it out even better. You know, have Vientos be that guy that hits sixth or seventh and provide that power back. But at the end of the day, that still can happen because we're still missing Lindor. Polanco's going to come back. Obviously, at this point, Robert is probably a bench player if Ewing continues to play the way he's playing. So, so I think between the young guys and Beatty and Vientos now starting to get comfortable at the plate and in their position, I think this lineup is going to get even longer once Lindor and all those guys come back.
Yeah, no, I think you're right about when they come back, because all those guys are better than Mark Vientos. All those guys that you just mentioned, and even Robert. I think he's even better than Mark Vientos. But when Lindor comes back, I imagine he slides right back into his leadoff spot. If not, he's batting maybe second or third, depending on where Bo Bichette is. We'll talk about him and our concerns, and then Jorge Polanco, if and when he comes back, he can slide in as that cleanup hitter as well and extend the lineup. The and we'll talk a little bit more about the lineup, I think, in our concerns, because there's a couple of holes that we still have. But the one thing I wanted to touch on, the last thing I'll touch on with the Yankee series was, man, can we get some new broadcasters for either Apple TV or Fox? Because both of those guys are just on the Yankees' um, backs, man. Like they just are hyping them up. Yesterday it was on the Fox broadcast where I forget who it was. Maybe Joe Buck was saying something, but he was like, yeah, the Mets have four of old Yankees, and they're just taking all of their players, and I'm like, dude, the Mets or the Yankees literally have two guys that have played in this game, and then you're not even going to mention them. And then a thing comes out about ESPN today, talking about how the Yankees pulled the Mets or something like that. They messed up or something like that. I'm like, come on, what are you doing? You can't hate on the Mets anymore,
Yeah.
because they just the I don't know. That was my soapbox that I'm gonna get off of now. It irks me whenever I see, because it's not even about um, the Met, or it's not even about the Yankees at that point. They're just trying to throw punches at the Mets, and that's just ridiculous to me. Anyway, I'm done ranting about that.
You know what? At the end of the day, that's something that's going to continue to happen until the Mets get consistent, because we've been the punching bag for so long that people like hitting the punching bag, and so that's not going to change until we become a consistent winner. And so hopefully this is the beginning of that. But I'm not surprised. I either listen to like both, not Apple, but on Fox, you're able to listen, or I think Apple too, but on Fox, you are able to listen to Howie and while you're watching the game. So I was listening to those guys yesterday, so I didn't hear any of that. So so for those listening in the future, put on the radio broadcast, because they allow you to do that when you're on the MLB app, and so and I do think Apple allows you to do that too. Yeah, listen to the radio broadcast. You can't listen to national broadcast, because they're terrible. Not only because we've been a punching bag for so long, but they're generally just terrible. If you ask most teams, they don't want to listen to the national broadcast. So, but good things are coming. But before we get to the good things, let's talk about some concerns, man. Ace, he's not an ace, but he's been our most consistent pitcher. Clay Holmes, Cam. I'm not going to try to say his name because I don't want to mess it up. Here on air, but Cam gets what, a couple rockets off his leg, nothing happens. Claim Holmes gets a rocket off his leg, not only by somebody he works out with in the off season, but just one, and he has a broken fibula. I can't even say it. Don't worry, even worried about it. Broken bone, and so it's just a shame, because he's going to be out a while. Two 2 3 months, who knows? But he's going to be out a while, and it's just the same, because he's been for the last 2 years our most consistent pitcher.
Yeah, broken fibia is what you're trying to say there, but no, it's definitely a concern, and it stinks because, like you said, he was getting outs. But it's I'm not too worried. Well, let me start off with this. I'm not too worried, depending on the decision that David Stearns makes and Carlos Mendoza makes, because there are a lot of good decisions that you can make in this spot. You can stretch out Tobias Myers and make him the starter until Clay Holmes gets back, because I think it'll be until August that he's gonna be able to get back. And Jonah Tong, he's sporting like a 6 ERA in the minors right now, and I don't think he's ready to get come back up. And so, um, Tobias Myers can get you there until Jonah Tong is there. Jack Wenninger, I don't know which one it is, but Jack Wenninger is pitching really good right now, and
Except today.
except except today, I didn't even look today.
Yeah,
Oh
two in
no,
the two in
well,
the third innings.
that probably puts him out, and especially since he pitched today, because if he pitched today, that means they weren't planning on pitching him on Wednesday and bring him up, and so that leaves him out of the spot. But he's another option that you could have gone with. The option that I think the broadcast hinted to today, that I feel like David Stearns is leaning more towards, is going with Sean Mania and stretching him out as the starter, to fill in that gap. And that's concerning to me because we saw him pitch today. He gave up two inherited runs for Freddie, three of his own, one unearned. But there's always traffic on the base paths with Sean Mania, and you want to extend that for more innings, for more time. As a manager, you have to, or as a president, as a Pobo, you have to see that and think, there's no way I can stretch this guy out as a starter. But I think right now the Mets are desperate and are looking to Sean Mania to be their savior and to slide into that spot. And so that is concerning to me if they do go with Sean Mania to fill in that spot.
Yeah, no, for sure. And that has been the conversation about Sean Mania filling in that spot. Because you're right. It's not a concern in the sense that it'll be a major concern depending on who they fill it with, right? And Sean Mania showed that today he can't be a starter. He can't be a starter. So it's unfortunate that we lost Clay Holmes, but today they gave Sean Mania a shot and he gave up runs in every inning he pitched. And I know not all of them got attributed to him because he inherited a couple, but still, his pitching um, has has gotten worse. It just seems like it's gotten worse. Because I guess Mania is our second concern, right? Who's going to bring him up, as potential guy to take over for Clay Holmes. But I don't want this guy starting. I barely want him on the mound now, and especially after today, because if he keeps the game, if he doesn't let a couple runs score or one run score, we don't even have to go into extra innings, right? So it's just one of those things that I don't know. You see all these other pitchers going down and fixing the loose bodies in their elbow. I don't understand why Sean Mania wants to force the issue and continue pitching badly when he's not at 100%. That really boggles my mind. And in the Pobo, I don't know if Stearns is yeah, and this is where I don't know all the ins and outs in how injuries and all that stuff works, but I don't know if you're have to force him to go get that surgery, uh, but I don't think you can. I don't think you're allowed to force somebody to get a surgery that they don't want. So what do you do then? Because I know we want um, Stearns and Cohen to eat the 25 millions this year and next year, but that's just not good business sense. So I don't think they're going to do that. So what do you do if a guy that's hurt is claiming to be healthy? but he's pitching like he's hurt, but still says he wants to be healthy. I don't know what you do there, to be honest with you.
Yeah, no, I mean it's a wasted roster spot right now, and there's nothing that you can do, and you're stuck. It's one of those moves where David Stearns has got to just look and say, do I want to cut ties? Because they did it with Frankie Montas, they did it with Paul Blackburn. Paul Blackburn was a different situation. Obviously, you're not paying Shaman or those guys nearly as much money as you are Shaman, but at some point you have to stop looking at the money, because you're going to lose more money putting him back out on the mound than you are going to profit from just cutting ties with him, because no one's going to want to see him uh, throw a baseball, especially if he's starting. My last and final concern is going to be, um, obviously, a minor concern is the MJ Melendez, Austin Slater um, platoon, but we can get over that. The biggest concern that I have in the lineup is Bo Bichette, man. Bo Bichette. I had a friend today that's not even a huge Mets fan. He's more of a football fan than anything. But he texted me. He's like, "Man, Bo Bichette is so bad," and I'm like, "Yeah." He's like really not putting it together, and I think a lot of people have talked about how you have to just stop looking at the back of the baseball card and thinking he's going to pull it together. But and maybe he does eventually, but where he's batting in the lineup is affecting everybody else. Him batting second and taking the bats that he is, striking out just ground ball after ground ball, hitting into double plays is a concern to me. And at some point, Mendoza has to again erase the money and bat him lower in the lineup until he can get it back together. Because hopefully he does, and that he can be that Bo Bichette that we know that he has been his whole career.
Yeah, no, and I'm as probably as disappointed as Bobuchet because I really wanted him here. Even before the move to third base, before the trade to Simeon, I wanted Bobuchet here because of what I saw in the playoffs. He was such a clutch player, and so it was one of those things that I wanted him there. But it's also um, um, what are you going to do right now? What batting him down in the lineup? Who are you going to put up there? Are you going to trust Beatty to go up there? Are you going to trust Marcus Simeon to go up there? Are you going to trust Vientos to go up there? I mean, at this point, because until Polanco um, or Lindor comes back, I don't think you can move anybody else out of the lineup, right? And I think you're kind of stuck with Bichette right there for now. Because I would like a couple weeks ago we talked about it, and I was actually thinking about putting him down in the lineup, but who are you going to put up there? I don't think they're going to put up AJ Ewing up there yet. And would you have three lefties in a row with Benj, Soto, and Ewing? I don't think they'd do that either. The analytics department would go nuts. And so, you know what I'm saying? So it's like one of those things where uh, I think I think we're stuck with him right there, and I think we need to continue to cheer for him to change his to get back of the baseball card because he is making $42 million, and we need him to opt out. so, it's one of those things that I think we have to live with, be stuck with, and hopefully he starts hitting the way Bobuchet can sooner rather than later.
Well, I mean, it's interesting you point there out that there's no other options, because obviously we just talked about who's hitting five right now, and we don't like that option. But there are a lot of options that you can do. Um, to kind of keep the consistency of the left, right, left, to not mess that up. One of those options being Mark Vientos, moving him into the two hole. We know that he did it in 2024, and was comfortable enough there that he can do it again. But you can try that out, see if that works out. Marcus Simeon has been swinging a good bat lately. Obviously, he's not swinging a great bat, and so putting him up at the in the two hole is a big risk, especially as much as he strikes out. Um, and the only other option that you would have is going with the lefties because we're so lefty heavy in this lineup. And I'm not saying that you have to move Bo Bichette down so much, but move him below Soto, move him out of the first inning at least, get him batting fourth, maybe even have him be the protection for Juan Soto to an extent. Just flop him or flip him and Mark Vientos right now because that's the best that you're gonna get. But I think he's just seems like he's a wasted at bat, being batting up that high, especially when you have an on base guy like Carson Bench, who is getting on base at a phenomenal rate right now, and and then is just stranded, or is getting an easy out with Bo Bichette right behind him, and so there's I feel like there's things to do. We've seen Mendy change up the lineup before. I feel like we shouldn't have to wait until these guys get healthy to do that. But at the end of the day, um, he's getting paid a lot of money, and like you said, he's got to perform. He's got to prove that he's worth that much money, because I don't want to see him next year making that much money, and I know a lot of Mets fans don't want to see him either. And the only way to do that is by getting him to play better.
Yeah, yeah, and that's why I think that we gotta wait it out and see what happens at least until we get either Polanco or Lindor back. Big shout out to Elvin in the comments. After going through he says after going through the 12-game losing streak, having this good week makes him appreciate winning again. So for sure, that's one of those things where. Being as low as we were, and now, taking 5 games in a week, it's a big lift, and you love to see it. So let's continue on with the pod. We're not going to do the who's right since we missed last week, and so we'll take the players of the game and pick them later. I'll even give Victor choice on if he wants to start with hitters or pitchers. I'll let him think about that for a second. But let's preview the next week. This week coming up, we got Washington and Miami in this next week. A road trip, but luckily it's an East Coast road trip. So, that's something that you like to see. Hate those West Coast trips, and we see Washington for the second time, and 4-game series, and we see Miami for the first time this year. And so, the pitching matchups. Obviously, we got McLean going this week and Scott going this week. But other than that, and then Peralta on the weekend. But for this Washington series, two of our guys are, we don't know. McLean might pitch Tuesday. He might pitch Wednesday, and it all depends on how they want to set this up. Are they going to call somebody up? One of the things you mentioned, Jack Wenninger. He pitched today, didn't have a good outing, but Zach Thornton's another guy that they could call up, or they could have a spot start. I know they temporarily called up Joey Gerber, but that's more of a bullpen arm, because you don't need a starter until either Tuesday or Wednesday, depending on which day they want to go. Or are they going to go a bullpen day with all those guys? There's a lot of questions on what's going on this week, but I think it's a big payback week for Washington. We got to take this series, take at least 3 out of 4 from Washington, and pay back for what we had to live through in April. So, and then the Miami series, obviously, other than Peralta, nobody's pretty, shown. Not even on the Miami side, we don't know who all the pitchers are, because it's just we're getting to that time of year, I guess, where rotations are changing and pitchers are getting hurt, just like our guy Clay Holmes. And so I think, as long as this week goes the way it should, right? Take 3 out of 4 from Washington, 2 out of 3 from Miami. We should have another good week. And what do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. All the name of the game is winning series, and if you go out there, take two series this week, then you're putting yourself in a good spot. You're then inching yourself back to 500 and then back into playoff contention. And so you just take a series by series. Don't get too far ahead of yourself, and the bats have to come alive. I think that's what you summarized really, with telling us that there's not much pitchers. Um, not We don't know who the pitchers are all of this week, except for a couple of guys. Is the bats have to come and kind of pick up the slack. The pitching doing that for a while. They were kind of supplementing the hitting for a while, but now it's got to be the opposite, and the guys have to come up and come in clutch. We've been scoring a lot of runs lately, and I like that. We just got to keep it going. Depending on which games, who pitches, hopefully someone gets called up either Wednesday or Thursday in that in that Washington series. Um, that might be a fun game to go watch. But win the first two of these games where we know who's pitching, with Christian Scott and Noel McLean on the mound, and then you put yourself in a good spot for these other two games where you don't know who's pitching. And so David Peterson is definitely going to pitch one of those. Don't know which one, or if he's going to have an opener, but hopefully we can take those two games at the beginning and not have to worry about that.
Are you saying you're trying to get to one of these games, subliminally, for all for all those people out there, we're here in Virginia, in the DC area, and so we usually go up and catch a game when the Mets are in town, and that might be a game to watch. The problem is we don't know which day it is that he's going to pitch, and whether it's Tuesday or Wednesday. But at this point, might be the only game I want to watch or go watch and spend some money at. And so, yeah, no, win the series, and let's keep it going. Let's keep the good vibes going. But let's get into our final segment. Let's pick these um, pitchers of the series and hitters of the series. So I gave you some time to think about it. Are you going first with the hitters, or are you gonna defer?
Um, yeah, let's go first with the hitters. Because I want to give a shout out to a pitcher and a hitter. I'll start with the pitcher because you're not going to go with the pitcher this time, but I think the pitcher of this past week had to be.
Wait. Are you picking hitter, or are you deferring to the pitcher? Which one you want to pick first?
I'm going with the hitter.
Okay, so you're gonna pick the hitter.
Yeah, yeah. I'm just
Uh,
recapping who I thought the MVPs of this past week were, and
okay, okay.
I don't think the pitcher is anyone that you're going to pick because he's a reliever, but he performed some voodoo magic on Saturday's game, and Luke Weaver, just got to give him a huge shout out because bases loaded, coming in pitching 2 innings, and playing an excellent game. That was I think he takes the cake with the pitcher of the week. Now my hitter of the week is a guy that I think is going to keep the momentum going. I think like I hinted at, we've been talking about him all week, and he was definitely the hitter of this past week. So I'm gonna pick him again this week. Mark Vientos is gonna come alive and gonna hit a few home runs. We know he likes hitting more away than he does at home, and he was already hitting great at home, and so he's got himself solidified in that cleanup spot. And the more that he hits, the more he solidifies himself in the starting lineup each and every day. Not to mention, he's been playing a great first base. He had a
Whoa,
he had a hiccup this
whoa,
past week,
whoa.
but he's been playing a great first base, turning double plays like we haven't seen in a while. And so
He almost
I'll
fell on his head.
I said one I said one mistake, but yeah, but he's had some great defensive plays as well. And so
No, for
hopefully
sure.
he gets enough
He's
lineup.
played well. So he's getting consistent playing time. But like Mendoza said, he doesn't have to worry about where he's playing or if he's even playing. So that does help the guys. Not worry about tomorrow because they know they're going to be in the lineup. So, not a bad pick. You know, Soto. I'm gonna go with Soto. I'm not gonna even talk about it too much. Soto's a guy that needs to start hitting more. You know, he's been hitting, so it's not a knock on Soto. So it's not me knocking Soto, but it's a guy that needs to continue to hit more and get really hot. That's what he needs to. I guess that's my point. He needs to get really hot, and so I'm picking Soto this week to go back to where it's all started and pick get on fire because we need him to get on fire. You imagine him on fire, Benj on fire, and Ewing on fire, and along with Avientos and Beatty contributing. I think that's a formidable lineup and potentially Bichette waking up. So I'm gonna go with Soto. And you're right. The pitcher, Weaver, gets a huge shout out for what he did. But Williams is another guy, a save and a win, pitching back to back, something that he doesn't normally do. And so, obviously we're going to give it to Weaver, to Weave, as they call him, because he came in bases loaded, shut it down, and then gave us another inning after that. That's pretty awesome to me. So, but you do want to talk about Brazaban, keeping it together throughout the week. He's another pitcher, and Williams with the win and the save this week. So those guys got an honorable mention, but because of the circumstance, I definitely go with Weave, just like you mentioned. And so, but for me this week, you know what? I'm gonna pick um, a reliever because how many starters do we have left? You know what I'm saying? I don't know. And obviously we got McLean left and we got Peralta left, but do you really trust Peterson? I know he's looked good coming out of the bullpen, but do you trust him still? No, and so. Do you trust Mania potentially starting this week? I don't. So I'm gonna go with Brazaban to have a good week. That's a kind of unorthodox pick, but I think I'm gonna pick Brazaban to have a good pitching week for the Mets.
Wow, did not expect that. That is a pick. That is definitely a pick. But um, okay. Well, I thought I was gonna get this guy. I didn't think I was gonna get the ace of the staff now. But yeah, give me Nolan McLean. He's the only answer here. He's the only guy that's gonna come and pitch an enjoyable baseball. So I'm excited. Sorry, I thought I was gonna sneeze. I'm excited for that, and that's gonna be a huge stepping stone for him to take. With Clay Holmes no longer there, it's him and Freddie Peralta for that ace spot, and obviously Freddie's been 5 inning Freddie this whole season. His stuff has been down too, and so um, Noel McLean, he's had a rough couple of starts these past couple of starts, and so I think he bounces back against these Nationals. Still a tough lineup to face with these young guys, but I think he comes in and twirls and is gonna solidify himself as the ace of the staff this week.
Yeah, not a bad pick by you because you can't go wrong with picking McLean. But yeah, guys, subscribe to the channel, like this video. We're gonna call it there. Let me know how you're feeling. Put it in your comments on replay. Let us know how you're feeling and what you're thinking. Do you like where the Mets are at right now? Do you like the way the lineup's set up? What would you do different? Let us know how you're feeling. And Victor, any last words?
Yeah, no, I mean, other than good Mets baseball, you get to watch some good basketball, New York basketball too. The Knicks swept the 76ers this past week. They're gonna probably see the Cavs. Cavs are beating up the Pistons right now, and that's gonna be a good series. Donovan Mitchell, the Mets fan, is gonna come into New York, and feel bad for Mitch because you know I like the guy. I wish he was a Knick, but um, good Mets baseball, good Knicks basketball, good New York football, Giants stuff going on. So it's a pretty good feeling to be a New York sports fan right now. That's all I gotta say. Let's go Mets.
Let's go Mets.